Welcome to Zentangle Project Pack No.15, Day 2. My name is Rick.
Hi, I'm Maria, and we're watching Julie here do some magic with bees. She's using the pink Micron PN that's in the pack, and you can see she's mirroring these beautiful, simple shapes, and it sort of looks like some of your bees from the hive,
It
Rick.
does look like bees. That's awesome.
That's fun.
Never thought of that.
And we all come to the table with different ideas and different concepts. I love having everybody's appear and see what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that she's putting in sort of a marquee shape in there, in between.
And what's neat about that marquee shape is that it sort of takes on an aura effect of the shape of the bees on either side of it.
Right.
And this is one of those ideas that we're, wanting to get across again, is that these are playful ideas of what you can do with the familiar shapes of whatever your letter forms are. So our language uses the ABC, and whatever you do, this is an opportunity to work with something that's familiar that you may not have just seen as a potential part of a pattern.
She's adding a little shade on the wings here, and that's interesting.
And you'll see that whatever you do, as long as you repeat it, becomes part of the pattern.
It becomes part of the pattern.
I'm trying to find a playful word of how this could be.
I don't know.
And then using that little bit of graphite to tie all of those elements together.
I had some fun times with the bees, too.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, stick with us throughout the whole series, and we look forward to showing you what we have at the end. Okay, so this is me, and I'm going to work on this one with the letter P.
You're going to have a diagonal. That's an interesting concept right away, right off the bat.
Okay, and now I'm going to rotate the P, but share that main vertical part, and just draw it.
Like an 8.
And it looks like an 8 or an S with a line through it. And now I'm going to draw the vertical in the other way. But in this case, I'm going to begin with a mirror image of the P, and then do the rotation of that mirror image. And I'm going to repeat that throughout. And I think I'm using one of the microns here, maybe the brown.
Yeah, brown. Which on film looks sort of like the pink.
It does. And a key, as with most everything in Zentangle, is that idea of rotating your tile. So you will have a better, or what I like to refer to it as, is a consistent way of drawing each stroke if you hold the paper in the same way each time. I decided to approach this really simply, and I'm looking at the overall pattern that those interlocking shapes, or I saw it as interlocking shapes, so I decided to emphasize that. So the way I did that was to add a whole bunch of graphite to one side, and then this is such a magic tool, the tortillon, because look at how even it addresses that graphite. And when Maria and I were looking at paper, it was not only important how it worked with the pen, but also how it worked with the graphite. And this is the same paper that we use on all of our white tiles.
Oh, the magic Tiepolo from
Right.
Italy.
So very simple, and what a cool pattern.
Cool. So this looks like Molly.
And we're going to work with K.
And that looks like the micron brown too, right? The 01.
And you can see that she is just putting those Ks right next to each other.
Oh, look what it does.
And all of a sudden, it becomes something else.
So, there really isn't any reason why you have to actually see the letter in there. It's a lot of this is inspiration to get you going. Sometimes when you run into sort of a not a writer's block, but a artist block, you wonder, well, what can I do next for my string or for my next stroke? And oftentimes, if you can't think of anything, put a word down or a letter down and see what happens when you reproduce that letter in different orientations.
So she has filled in those spaces using that idea of enzeppel, and you can look that tangle up, and then going back in with the gold jelly roll and just filling those in. And doesn't that look like one of those pressed gold bracelets?
Yeah.
Right? Those woven?
Yeah.
It's beautiful, Molly.
Very cool. Or GIMP.
Or GIMP. We're
Yeah,
just
those
talking
of you-
about
yeah,
summer
we were-
camp, right?
Yeah, summer camp and
Decades ago.
creating things with GIMP. And if anybody knows what that is, it means they're old like us.
Right. So that's beautiful. Just other ways of approaching it. So in this case, I'm using R, and I want to apologize ahead of time because I was so intent on what I was doing. A lot of times I've covered up the pen nib, so
Yeah.
my apologies in advance.
It's hard when you're the director and the artist.
Right.
You have to wear all the hats at the same time. So even that creates this beautiful pattern of diagonals.
Right? So you've got the diagonals and you've got that little four-sided shape. And so I'm playing with this and going along and really liking that. So I changed my mind in the middle of this, and I decided to leave it perhaps as an inspiration to you as well to change your mind. So here I'm realizing that, I would like to have those four-sided shapes be next to each other and play in different ways. So instead of just rotating, I'm going to mirror and rotate.
You just wanted to get your logo in there. Your
Well,
chop.
maybe
your
that
chop.
too, right? So here we go. I'm going to do this element, but I'm going to mirror that element. So now we've got a right reading R, and then you see the overall pattern that created, this sort of like up and down with these lozenges or whatever. And I'm going to take advantage of the way the jelly roll works to cover the color underneath it. So now those shapes, those oval shapes, exist by themselves. And I'm going to take the sepia PN and fill in those other shapes. And so the R is now sublimated to that other pattern of that sort of like, I don't know, golden eggs going up and down or whatever you want. So it just gives you an idea, and that you can change your mind as you're going along. Oh yeah, so again, that stays wet for quite a while, so just keep that in mind.
This looks like Molly.
Mm-hmm.
So she's working with a script, like a small letter T script.
Lowercase t.
Yeah.
Do you know why it's called lowercase?
Okay, tell us, because he has a background in typesetting.
Typesetting letters used to be individual movable type that you would assemble and lock up and then make a print from. And the capital letters or the uppercase letters were kept in a box on the top, and the lowercase letters were kept in the lower case on the bottom, and that's why they're lowercase and uppercase. So looking at that idea of a T, what are the elements? You have those cursive parts, and then you have the crossbar. And just working with aura and emphasizing the width of the letter.
Oh, that's pretty, just the way it is.
Right? And I like how the width of the crossbar of the T resonates with the width of the letter.
It's almost like the sine, cosine, the
right,
wave,
right.
That wave.
So now going back in with a different color and filling that in. Just all the different ways you can see an element.
Is that the pink pen?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And just that lovely deliberateness, one after the other. Now, this is something you might not even notice when you first looked at it, but adding that brown along the edge just adds a slight sophistication or like change of tone and
detail.
A little
it's all
detail.
About the detail.
Yeah. And then add a little bit of graphite.
Now she's adding graphite like to a tangle, you know, individual elements.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Okay, so this is you now.
This is me.
And
okay. I have to talk again about marking that PN that we included in the kit because it's a dark brown and you can't tell from the cap because it looks black. Mm-hmm. So you have to put something that's not going to be misunderstood, you know, like a flag. Anyway, that's what happens to me. I had a big boo-boo happen.
Right. and we ended up actually, in the other video, Maria shifted it to putting it on the pen barrel
The barrel,
itself.
Right.
So when I edited these various ones, I put this one after Molly's because look at how similar that is.
Oh, my goodness. We didn't even see each other's stuff.
You haven't seen it.
Right. How funny.
So notice what Maria's doing.
We all had, you can see, we all had separate sheets of paper to work
Right.
on, and then we're going to put them all together at the end.
But isn't that amazing?
That's crazy. It's not even the same letter.
Right.
Oh, I got the orange, adding a little bit of color here.
So you can think of this as like putting down the initial crescent moon shape. The little ladybugs are actually in there.
Is that the pink?
I think so, yeah, the pink PN.
Now going back to orange.
Just a little bit of aura-ing that shape and filling that in. Repeating it, and how the paper that shows up in there becomes its own element. So much of this has the principle of aura, of just using something a little space away.
And always realize that when you go to put this graphite down on any of these colors, they take a little bit longer to dry.
Yeah, particularly when you use the tortillon, you want it to be nice and dry.
Also, any of these examples and exercises can be used in a series of stripes right close together to create a background, almost like a fragment in reticula. That would be a fragment right there.
And you can also imagine this as like how you could fill these in on hollowbar boards, right?
Mm-hmm. So I'm taking my time here. I want this, the base of the Y to end up here. So I'm putting the base down first so that you can see how that works.
Yeah, this is Maria.
It's the base.
Now,
This looks like something Ricky would do.
It
it's kind of
very much
it's
like
very
me.
graphic,
Yeah.
and it's funny how we
There's
overlap.
some crossover,
yeah.
And notice the turning over of the tile. You could conceivably draw the Y upside down, but...
So you can see where I'm connecting the lines here, where the baseline is in the middle.
And now all of a sudden, it becomes something else.
The Y's are gone.
Right?
Why did you do that?
Why? Why not?
Why not? So here's the pink, adding some colored detail in here.
Yeah, this is very, very like how I would do it. Very graphic, very simple, stark.
Pretty, huh?
Oh, it's great. And then I love how you shaded this. So notice how she's doing the shading and leaving that gap, right?
We're always trying to give you multiple ways of shading things or adding graphite. It's not always the same thing. And what you do is, you don't see us waiting, but when we get to a point here, we'll sit down and we'll look at the piece and say, well, what can I do to make this different? Or challenge myself to be creative, even just with the pencil.
Look at that. I love that.
That's cool, right? Is this Molly? I can tell by the way my kids hold their pens.
So notice how, I think what she's pointing out there is she's starting the crossbar or that diagonal just down a little bit, because then she auras it. So it starts at the top. So you've got the ends bumped right up next to each other. I love this idea of embedding letters into, or looking at letters as patterns, as elements, and all the things you could say, like
thinking of you.
Love letters, literally, you know.
Right.
And now this is just a dance of patterns. So what could go in that empty space there? Principle of
even
aura.
Just that. Look at that. Look at it. Could be Z's. It could be
right.
Yeah. Oh, she's doing a little mom dance there.
This is very much mom. So she's taking off from one side, doing some loops.
A little fleur-de-lis thing.
And landing back down, top and bottom.
You sure that's not me?
Right?
Because I think I did that on one of mine. How fun.
And interestingly, with the fleur-de-lis going beyond, it sort of makes the ends more, you see them again. And then going back and just filling it in.
Oh, that's a fun one. I like that.
It's a nice mix of straight and, bold and then delicate.
She's going in and accenting again on both sides of the color of the brown in there. Or is it pink? I'm not sure. But I can't tell.
And it just adds a, like a texture, a beautiful texture to that. And sometimes, like, if you put down a lot of graphite, you can go back even over it with the same color pen, and it increases the contrast. Nice. Okay, so here I am with Q, and keeping a secret of what I'm doing apparently there. But I'm doing what is that called at the bottom for Q? The tail, or?
Well, it sounds like a tail, yeah.
Right? So I'm doing the orbs, again, the way Maria inspired me, that doing it Well, that one I went all the way around, but I like doing it half one way and then half the other way. To me, for my hand, it gives a better orb. And I'm putting the tail from that one and then inverting it, putting the tail on that side. And I'm just going to continue that way. And then all of those orbs I filled in with that orange micron. And then I think I'll go back and fill those spaces. Oh no, what I did is did a little bit of rounding with the pink PN.
Sort of Peter Maxey looking at this point.
And after that orange dried, I went in and put a little bit of graphite on those orbs. And
how did that work for you? Is that good?
It worked good as long as I let it dry long enough. Then you're able to move it around. If you don't let it dry, like towards the end there, it was still a little wet, you start moving the paper fibers around.
And this is the gold.
And this is the gold. And just putting those elements in there and what you could do with cues.
It's a bold move.
Right? Molly's choice of these colors are really awesome. Go well together.
Okay, I is kind of a funny letter because it's almost not anything. And so she could do anything with just a line like that. Those the ideas are crazy.
The ideas.
The ideas.
Well, just that little flare at one end, auraing it, and coming back with the serif. I love that rhythmic repetition. Speaking of which,
dots are a very powerful
yes.
symbol, right? Don't underestimate what they can add.
So now that familiar ladybug shape, adding it to either side. So there's that sense of an orb behind it, perhaps. And it's a nice mix of solid and line. And that's something that you can keep in the back of your, thought space is like, okay, just like we balance light and dark and with adding graphite, you can think of solid and line. And the larger dots resonating with the little dots. And you can see she's adding the graphite in between the ink, because a lot of times you don't need to add graphite on top of it.
Well, look at the great image that it created, right?
And this makes those eyes jump out because they didn't have graphite on them. Nice. Okay. So here I think we have
Molly
doing X's. And notice that slight curve at the beginning and the end, sort of like giving that sense of wrapping around.
And so little hollabaugh. I think she did that on purpose.
Right. Little hollabaugh, little aura. We keep saying those words, but they're components of so many tangles that we do. Beautiful. Looks like two ribbons wrapping around something. And the serifs almost form the continuity of those. Is it ribbons? Is it a DNA strand?
Yeah, I know,
it could be anything, right? I mean, at first I thought of it wrapping around something, but it could just be a helix wrapping around itself. Ah. So sort of an Enzeppel approach. And coloring in those little interstices adds that density of color. Nice. Where'd the X's go? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, as her style is coming back in with another pen, a darker pen, and just reinforcing that part that would be over. It's fun to look at how three-dimensional something appears after you add that light and dark, right, of the graphite.
Now it's got a curved shape or a cylindrical shape.
Like wrapping around these beads or some magic scepter.
Adding a little love. She's going in and adding details and tidying up. And I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things. When I pause in the middle of a tile, I'll go back to tangles I've already done and add little dots or this or that, or just tidy them up. Adding love.
Yeah, I'll notice Molly does that as well on a lot of, different people approach things in different ways. And I think that comes from, exploring your own style and then, being able to go back and just, I'm going to do this and add that.
It looks like one of those things you put your fingers in and then you can't get them out.
Right.
You got those at Halloween or something?
Finger cuffs, yeah.
Finger cuffs? Yeah.
Something like that. Ha. Beautiful. Okay, so this one was F. And I decided, well, I'm just going to do F, and I'm going to rotate my tile each time and see what happens. So it's one of my approaches is to set like a limit, like play with an elegance of limits, and then see what occurs from it. So here I am on my third rotation, and I'm just making each F connect. So this next one will go in this direction. So it shares that top crossbar. And so now I have 4 Fs in 4 different orientations. So I'm just going to repeat that a couple times. And so now, well, what do I do with this? So I'm going to go in, you can't see it, but I'm going in and putting in the largest orbs that can fit in all of the spaces available.
Looks like Bob, 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 or Boo, Boo, Boo.
Right? So there's this little pattern like 2, 1, 2, or so you end up with this repetition of pattern. Well, that's redundant, but now I'm going to go back in and sort of tie this in together with that orange micron to make bring some coherence to it, and then fill in the interstices. And then once that's done, it's like, okay, well, what would be an interesting contrast? So let's add in that pink PN next to the orange, because it's like, well, the palette that Molly put together for this is another elegant limit. So what can we do with that palette? And then just a little bit of gold, and I left that one F there just so you could see what was the underlying construction. So that's F. And then I had W. And what I'm doing with this is I'm doing 2 strokes on what would be the downstroke, which is the stroke going from the upper left to the lower right, and a single stroke that goes from up to the upper right.
Or you're just making it heavier.
Yeah, just making it heavier. And I decided to overlap the W's, because if I just strung them side to side, well, then they might be V's.
Or M's.
Or upside down M's. I guess this could be M's too, depending on how you turn it. But I wanted to differentiate it, so I decided, well, let's overlap that. It could be X's, and but just playing with those diagonals. And the ones that are going, slanted to the left are more weight, and the ones slanted to the right are less weight. And I'm remembering, where the serifs would go, so I went back and connected those serifs. And so now this is becoming a sort of a different, you're starting to see the patternness of this. So what else can we do here? Well, in those little triangles, I'll put a little gold dot. That's sort of cool. And then in the bottom, upward triangle, just going to put some lines with that nice micron orange. It's starting to be very, I don't know, like
Native
southwestern.
American,
yeah, exactly. And I decided just to shade one side of this. And leave the part with the gold dots up there. So there are some W's.
Nice.
Okay, so this is Molly, and she has S. And this is she's using Pinochle.
Oh, that's right.
Which is a tangle that she developed, and I really encourage you to look this up on the app or look it up in our newsletters. It is one of the neatest tangles that is totally unexpected, and the way she designed it was to begin with an S
That's
shape.
right, I remember.
So this is actually the first, well, at least the first that I can think of right now, tangle that is based on a letter shape. And when you see, so she's doing this as a border here, but when you see it done as covering an area, it's like, how did you do that? But it's all S's and auras.
Yeah.
So when I saw her do this, it's like, oh, of course, that's great. And just a little bit of weighting there. This is actually a really brilliant tangle. It's so simple, and it comes with such a complex result.
And the S's disappear.
And they totally disappear. I think she called it pinochle, because those look like little peanuts in the shell.
Yeah.
Or shells, peanut shells. Nice. So this is actually a foreshadowing of our work with alphabets. So
that's Molly again.
This is Molly again. And in some ways, this is like creating a reticula, right, for a fragment. And that fragment will be a Z. And Molly said, I did it the other direction. So it could be a Z, it could be an N.
Yeah.
But this is...
No mistakes.
Exactly. So just putting those pieces together, and there is no up and down or left or right here, so...
This is cool.
Right?
It's a woven basket weave.
Right. Looks like that. What?
Wicker.
Right, wicker. And this is a nice, strong contrast.
Nice. I like just that black and white look.
That very simple.
Back to our roots.
Right? And sometimes exactly, that simplicity and that starkness is so beautiful. And then just adding a little bit of the color there. But wait, I don't know if I've ever seen Molly not shade.
Yeah, I know. She loves to shade. That's like she's the queen of shading.
And just going in with a nice sharp point, using the side of your pencil, using the side of your tortillon. Look at that.
Cool.
And I think this
is Martha.
This is Martha.
Martha. Hi, Martha.
And we're going to do exclamation points.
And she's using our system of, drawing the letter or the shape and then going and beefing it up afterwards, which is kind of cool. I haven't seen this one yet.
So we have those in one direction, and then in true Zentangle form, let's take a different pen.
Yeah.
And do the same thing with the same approach.
Oh, cute, right? Looks like a really cute little baby design for like baby blankets or something. Baby clothes.
Right? Very basic, very repetitive.
Kind of fun.
Playing with the way those colors work. Adding an aura.
Well, now it's looking kind of candy cornish.
Right? Beautiful. So that's an interesting way of using aura that just goes to side instead of all the way around.
That's neat.
And again, this little bit of graphite really ties it together. And the circular strokes of the tortillon. And there we have the filling that in. We look forward to showing you more of this later.
Yeah.
And we will see you next for day 3.
Well, have fun filling in the other halves of these lines.
Yes.
This is where we're hoping to see some real creativity, and have fun.
And we will see you soon and look forward to seeing what you create. Bye now.
Bye.